Ford Motor Company, it's just caved. All these big companies are just caving because they don't want to get Bud Lighted, right? Ford walks back woke DEI policies, joining growing list of U.S. companies. Let's get into it. Here we go. It's a tweet by Robbie Starbuck. Remember, Robbie Starbuck is the one that kind of got this trend going. We've got Tractor Supply. We've got John Deere, Jack Daniel's whiskey, just a bunch of companies that you would never think would be, associated with these big DEI policies, which stands for didn't earn it, by the way, diversity, equity, inclusion. I mean, this whole notion of let's make everything diverse, inclusive, and let's just go down that roadway and not have it based on performance has impacted business, right? And not for the better. And these big companies know it. And now they're being called out on it. They're like, oh, yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, we're getting rid of that. I mean, we're analyzing how things are going. DEI, that's so 2023. We're no longer doing that. So here's a tweet from Robbie Starbuck. Big news. We were in the middle of investigating woke policies at Ford, but this morning, Ford confirmed to me that they're making changes. Here are the changes. Ending participation in the HRC's Woke Corporate Equality Index social credit system. It's where they get a score based on how woke they are. It sounds like there will be no more donations to pride events or other divisive events. Okay. All right. ERG groups must be focused on business. Interesting. A business with its employees focused on performing business. I don't know how I feel about that. That just seems, that seems almost logical, doesn't it? Yeah. No supplier or dealership diversity quotas, meaning you have to work with other units that have similar quotas of, I got to hire one of each, because otherwise this thing's going to go sideways. Now, it's when you do hire based on, trying to profile all these groups out, that's when you get a bunch of didn't earn it folks involved with your company and things go sideways because they just can't perform. They don't have the skill set. They were hired on, kind of like Kamala Harris as a, DEI hire. Straight up. She just was, right? Just straight up. Not based on her skill set. She's based on, all right, she checks all the boxes. So the CEO is going to be calling for respect and civility toward all ideologies, not just the woke ones, and hints at merit-based approach. You mean people doing their jobs and being rewarded for doing their jobs well? Again, yeah. Right? I mean, we're trying to get back to the basics. And you didn't want to get caught. Oh, hey, look at Ford. All these big companies are just, they're just changing things up. Oh, yeah. Us woke? Oh, no. No. We're going to go to a merit-based approach and we're just, we're continually changing things. And tweet goes on to say, this isn't everything we want from Robbie Starbuck's perspective, but it's a great start. We're now forcing multi-billion-dollar organizations to change their policies without ever posting. And this is just from fear that they have of being the next company that we expose, the next company to get Bud Lighted. Whatever happened to Dylan Mulvaney? Who cares? But what happened to her? Him? Her? Can't keep track. Yeah. I haven't seen much from that individual, right? I mean, just did the whole Bud Light thing. And then I heard she was accepting calendar dates for her speaking engagements. I am saying her, right? I can't keep, I'm not trying to misgender anybody. It's just not something that, intuitively makes any sense. Because when I think of that, I think of Dylan Mulvaney as a man who is impersonating a prepubescent woman, and then calling themselves a woman. And yeah. Anyway, so we will continue to communicate with our sources in companies we expose and report on any that step out of line. I can promise that if we have to do a second report, it will be a much more aggressive. They're literally just scaring these big companies. And what I want to talk about today is how easy is it to scare these companies? You just start. I mean, I think it was Jack Daniels that Robbie Starbuck said it was him investigating their employees' LinkedIn profiles. I think it was that company. And I'm like, wow, that is, I mean, yeah, okay. I mean, you start to think about, okay, what do we have to hide? But just this notion, hey, Robbie Starbuck's coming, he's poking his head around. Then all of a sudden, Ford backs off what they thought were just genius moves, as recently as 2020. Because all of these companies jumped on this bandwagon because at one point in time, it was what the cool kids on the block were doing. And all of this crap about DEI was just so prevalent. Oh, how's your DEI score? Oh, I'm really high. How about you? Oh, not so good. Got to hire some more in order to, check off all of our boxes. So far, you've helped me change corporate policy at Tractor Supply, John Deere, Harley Davidson, Polaris, Indian Motorcycle, Lowe's, and now Ford. We're a force to be reckoned with. Well, okay. And what is interesting to me is how little effort now needs to be taken, and you can expose one of these companies and they just crumble because they know the whole DEI thing doesn't make sense. And yet just a few years ago, they were falling all over themselves to comply with this ridiculousness because leadership was saying, if you don't have, DEI policies in place, it's really going to impact your business. Which one is it? Have them or not have? Doesn't matter because you're just virtue signaling, right? You're just saying what the cool kids on the block are saying, and it doesn't really make any difference. You're going to do whatever you're going to do, and you're going to cave. You're just going to cave in the heartbeat when something comes out that makes it sound like, hey, you're not really committed to running your business in a successful way. Therefore, we're basically going to hammer on you, and your DEI policies are going to come under great scrutiny, as they should, because they're not policies that help a company actually grow. People want to talk about, how once you have a diverse crew, that things are really going to be good. No, it would be a diverse crew, which doesn't have anything to do with anything, but they have people that are performing and that are bringing something to the table skill set wise that's benefiting that company. And on a long-term trajectory, that company is going to succeed. That's what makes business go, not having a whole bunch of different colored faces at your quarterly meeting. And we've proven that doesn't necessarily work. Ford says it will no longer participate in the LGBTQ-focused human rights campaign corporate equality index. How do we ever end up with that? You know what I mean? Just some people going, how can we do to really make things difficult? We'll just really screw up the way basic business works. Let's do this. Let's do this whole diversity thing. So it's interesting how the Fox News report brings up. Farley also informed employees that Ford had made the decision earlier in the year to no longer participate. Ford confirmed. Fox just kind of goes through. Here's the ridiculousness, and this is their response. Let's move over to CNBC. So Ford joins list of companies walking back its DEI policies. They're just walking them back, not far. I mean, they were close to begin with, but just a quick walk, maybe half a block or so. Just, get them down the road just a little bit. We're walking back. Ford Motor told employees in an internal communication that it hadn't taken a fresh look at its DEI policies and practices over the past year. That's why, we need a fresh look. We need a fresh perspective. We need to reimagine. We need to rethink our DEI policies. And yeah, that bastard, Robbie Starbuck, he's coming after us. So, we can't have that on the record. So, we don't want to be the next, Tractor Supply company. Following their review, the automaker said it will not use quotas for minority dealerships or suppliers, adding that it does not have hiring quotas. But that was so important just not that long ago. All of a sudden, our social experiment has gone wildly sideways and people are paying attention. And lo and behold, shareholders pay attention to these types of deals, to being Bud Lighted, don't they? Yeah, shareholders pay attention. Yeah, and that whole, and I keep referring to Bud Light because that was kind of the big one that got all this going, right? The company also will stop participating in human rights. Okay, we covered that. So the automaker has taken a fresh look. Ford move follows retailer Tractor Supply, who severed tires this earlier. Everybody is severing tires with the human rights campaign. Because they know that ultimately being affiliated with that whole thing is, that's not going to work out well for you long-term business-wise. It was something that you did at one point in time after the whole George Floyd thing, but we're not doing that anymore. Everybody's just like, ixnay on the human rights, whatever it is, campaign. We're not going to go there anymore. Home improvement retailer Lowe's joined the efforts. Now it's efforts earlier this week, and noted that it might also make additional changes to the policies over time. Yep, we're going to get rid of that as well. We're just going to push it all to the side. We're working on new policies. We think we've got something better here. And, all that DEI and LGBTQ plus stuff. No, but we've reimagined, we've rethought, and this is a direction we're going to go. No more quotas, no more scores. We're back to business. The companies have cited conservative backlash or changing social and political environments in their announcement. It's because it was a terrible idea to begin with. Today, it's a terrible idea. And moving forward, it's an even worse idea because that means you still have it implemented. And if you don't, then you're focusing on business. Yeah, weird. Tractor Supply and Harley-Davidson also noted a desire to appeal to their more rural or conservative-leaning customers. You don't really think of Tractor Supply, Harley-Davidson, or John Deere as being ultra woke, and they're not. Their customer base, their employee base, their management. Place I would say it is that corporate structure. It was at a corporate level that all of these companies decided, we've got to be one of the cool kids. We've got to go down this road. If we don't, we are hosed, because we won't be invited to the next birthday party. So I think you will start to see this move towards more politically neutral companies, which is to say that most of these companies don't really want to be doing this stuff in the first place, said Liz Hoffman. I mean, what do you even say? Pick which direction you're going in. Keep going in that direction. Don't do all this crap that doesn't matter. Because you know what? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, and it doesn't make your business any better. And you know what? Hiring people based on woke criteria, you're just going to get people into these jobs that can't do these jobs, and then it makes them look terrible, and they don't understand that they don't have a skill set that is commensurate with the pay that you've given them, just based merely on the fact that they tick off a box for human resources to say, I got a lot of those folks that work here. The whole thing doesn't make any sense, and it never did. But again, it was about being not included in hey, those guys over there, they're not DEI compliant. So Ford Motor Company's short-sighted decisions will have long-term consequences, said Human Rights Campaign President Kelly Robinson in a statement. What isn't that kind of when Bud Light chose to work with Dylan Mulvaney? They said, we need to get away from Bud Light's frat bro type pull. They want to get away from the frat bro image. Frat bros. That is ultimately who buys Bud Light. It's a perfect example of who buys Bud Light. It's cheap beer. It's not the worst. It's not the best, but it's cheap beer manufactured pretty consistently. And frat bros do buy it. A lot of people buy Bud Light. And a lot of people chose not to buy Bud Light when they had on a trans woman who said, they gave me this can, and she pretended that she was actually drinking a Bud Light and enjoying it. No person dressing up like Dylan Mulvaney did is going to enjoy a Bud Light. That is just not a thing. It's just not. It just doesn't happen. They're going to be drinking a White Claw all day long. So, but I think, the Bud Light treatment, which was Bud Light sales fell off the charts and they went from number 1 beer to number 3. You got Modelo, numero uno, and then you've got Michelob Ultra, number 2. Bud Light, third behind Michelob Ultra. Crazy stuff. But when consumers say that does not represent who I am, and for a while there, places were just simply not ordering Bud Light or Budweiser products because there was such a, backlash on that. And so what we're seeing here is these companies proactively getting out in front of this kind of stuff and basically saying, hey, we're still part of the cool kids club because, man, we are getting rid of that DEI as fast as we humanly can. Because it's, many companies, including automakers such as Ford, amped up their DEI commitments in the aftermath of fentanyl Floyd and Black Lives Matter protests this summer in 2020. And Ford spoke up about that at the time. We are not interested in superficial actions. This is our moment to lead from the front and fully commit to creating the fair, just, and inclusive culture that our employees deserve. Oh, but at the same time, it's not really helping us run our business effectively or efficiently. Therefore, now we're, a few years later, because it's not politically as important it's actually more politically important to not get the wrath of the conservatives since we're a company that has a lot of conservatives as consumers. Happened just that simple. A big company like Ford, they don't want to be affiliated with this nonsense. But they were able to do it under the guise of everybody else is doing it in 2020. And now they're being singled out. Look at them. They still got a DEI hiring policy in place. All right. That's it for me. Thanks so much for being here on this one. But one more company just decides we're going to distance ourselves. We're going to walk back just a little bit. Yeah, we're going to get rid of all that DEI stuff because business I just didn't make any sense. But we knew it at the time. Well, we wanted a virtue signal. Here we are. Thanks again for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.